place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken. If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken.
And shalom to each and every one of you. So glad to have you with us today. This is yours truly, Apostle V.W. Jones, right here on what is known as the Rosh Kingdom Ministries Bible Book Club. We want you to know that we're ready for you and want you to be ready for the word as we're going to get right into it. No strings attached, no pausing, no delays. Everything is what it is. Let's get it going. All right. So let's look now into where we should be. First off, let's keep this in mind. We've made an announcement to many of you, and I made a mistake. I did not get down for you guys what you need to know about. There's some exciting stuff coming up. Some of you have asked us for the coursing on KYC. And we want to make sure you are aware of what's going on with that. Our IT team came up with some great graphics for you guys to grab onto and utilize the information inside the graphic to go ahead and get the, the communications or the information to register for the KYC coursing. It is a joy to do it. It is laborious, however. And I'm trying to get for you guys the actual announcement so you guys can pick it up and pull it up. One, there we go. All right, let's get started with that. Bam, bam, there we go. And two, let's do this one. All right. All right, here we go. Okay, so now you have everything that you're going to need. We're here for KYC. You have the KYC class is going to begin. Announcement is on the screen for those of you on Clubhouse. I'm sure that our moderators can put something and pin it at the top of the class, or top of the page for the Clubhouse. I'm doing the KYC alumni. So if you are a part of the alumni, KYC alumni, many of you have been asking, hey, I need to get a refresher course. Some of you, sadly, I've listened to you talk about what you learned from KYC, and yeah, you need to go back and pick up some of the alumni, some of the coursing with that. So if you did, in fact, come through KYC and you know for a fact you are still learning about what KYC, know your calling is about. For those of you who are the alumni, we have an extremely deep discount for you to go through the coursing again. Starting June 17th, it'll be 8 weeks. It'll probably go through the middle of August. It will be advantageous for you. And yes, though you thought you learned something the first time and you know something now about the callings, I guarantee you, you're going to be sort of kind of weirded out at what you missed the first time through, though you attained a great deal in your first time through. All right. Second time through is always best. You know, we believe in, as we say, redundancy here. For those of you who don't know what KYC is, and maybe it's your first time, and you don't know anything about it, you can also join us by coming in on June 17th. It is an 8-week course. The course is when you contact us at the staff KYC at Gmail, staff KYC at Gmail, we will be able to give you what is the coursing and what's going to be going on, how long it'll be. You'll probably get me or Dr. Stewart to actually communicate back with you. So please make sure you go to staff.kyc at Gmail. All right. And you'll be able to get registered for that course June the 17th. You want to be there. You want to commit for those 8 weeks. It's going to be serious. It's going to be intensive. It's a week, one course a week, one class a week, but you have homework that will last you all week. and you need to make sure you're ready when we go live at the end of that week. All right. So KYC is coming back. Those of you who are alumni, yeah, you should go through too. Well, we already went through and some of us got scholarships and we paid. That's wonderful. But you still have, there's so much more in this to glean and to learn. So if you want to go back through it as alumni, you can do that. We want to make sure you have availed to get that opportunity. So for the alumni, make sure you join in. And for those of you who are new and have been asking for the course, KYC is now available. KYC is on the books. KYC is on deck, and we are ready to do what Yahweh, who is in fact our Elohim, talking about. And we want to make sure you are in the know. Let's take opportunity to pray so we can get into our coursing for today, which is Genesis or Exodus, Shemot, chapter number 2, verse 3. Yahweh, we come before you. Thank you, bless you, magnify, exalt you, extol you for who you are, why you are in this space and time. We ask you to forgive us for any and all sins. If we've murmured, complained, Yahweh, if we've coveted something that doesn't belong to us, and we're asking you right now that if we've backstabbed, judged anyone, Father, that you would bring to light that which we've done. We look to confess it, for if we confess our sins, you are faithful, you are just, Yahweh, to forgive us, and you will cleanse us by the blood of Yeshua and the washing of the water, which is your word, from all unrighteousness. We believe you to know that. We come to you because we know that you are, and that you are a rewarder of them that diligently seek you. And therefore we diligently seek you in this moment. Have your way in us, have your way for us, through us, and toward us. We ask, commandeer us in this moment as we talk about your word. Open it up that we might see you and not what we want. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, I decrease all things VWJ, DKM, VW Jones, that you, Adonai, would increase. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray, we say, Amen. Well, let's get started in the word of Elohim. So we'll pick up here at the book of Shemot, chapter and number 1. We're in verse 7. But to get down there, we need to start back at verse 1 so we can bring you up to speed on what's happening in verse number 7. So everybody pay attention. Books out, Bibles up. Everybody should have a microphone. This is a coursing where we talk and we express what we've learned in the coursing. Those of you who are with us on YouTube, please feel free to hit the subscribe page for this channel and then hit the notification bell. It'll tell you and allow you to regulate when you desire to tune in. Maybe you only want to tune in when the Darash Kingdom Ministries is having the Bible Book Club, or maybe you want to tune in when we're having the Darash Kingdom Ministries midweek Bible studies on Wednesdays. Maybe you want to tune in to when we're doing and recapping or bringing back up over the summer. We'll have the Proceeding Word back on live for VWJ Ministries every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so any of these events that you see that you would like to be a part of, you can regulate what it is you would be seeing and being notified of, okay? So remember, it's important. So for this, again, every Thursday, the Darash Kingdom Ministries, Bible Book Club. Then on Wednesdays, the midweek Bible study. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be having the Proceeding Word. And we'll be back with that for the summer months. So you have something to contemplate, understand, and embrace during those hours. All right. Now let's get started with what we have here for our time of study in this day, the actual book of Shemot. Now, in Shemot, chapter and number 1, chapter 1, verse number 1. Now, these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt, every man and his household, when they came with Jacob. Verse 2, Reuben, Simeon, Levi. You know those names, right? Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Uda, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, and all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Useph was in Egypt already. Useph died, and all of his brethren, and all of his generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and they increased abundantly, and they multiplied, and they waxed exceeding mighty in the land. and that land was filled with them. All right. So we got down to verse number 7. You're understanding the concept. Let's keep moving to verse 8. Now, there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Pharaoh. Now, the word knew here, I want to bring it to your forefront because many people think it's just about intimacy. Adam knew his wife, right? It's more than just intimacy. It is about understanding what someone did for them. So the word knew here in this is Strong's word H3045. It is the word yada. It is the word to know properly, to ascertain by seeing someone. All right. Used in a great variety of senses, figuratively, literally, euphemistically, and inferentially, including observations, having to take care of something, making recognition, and causatively, instructionally, designation, punishment, etc. As follow, to acknowledge, an acquaintance, acquainted with, advised by or towards, answer, appoint, assuredly, be aware, unawares, cannot, certainly, comprehend, consider, could they have, were they cunning, declared something, been diligent, can cause to discern, discover, endue with, familiar, friend, famous, feel, can have, be ignorant, instruct, kinfolk, kinsmen, cause to let, make, know, come to give, have, take, knowledge, have knowledge of, be, make to be, make self known, be learned, lie by a man, lie by a man. That's the word phrase that we use often for Adam knew his wife. She laid next to him and of course conceived. But also it means in the word yada, the word to actually, as we love to say, that word is new. It means to mark, to perceive, to have privy to, a prognosticator, give reward, have respect for, skillful, shew, can, man of skill, be sure, of a surety, teach, tell, understand, have, have an understanding of, will be, wist, wit, wot, meaning when you wist not, you know not, when you wit not, when you wot not, you know not, when you wot, you know, when you wist, you know. So I put those things before you so you understand that the word knew here in verse 8, and there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Usef. We could, I almost said it too. This has nothing to do with sexuality. This has nothing to do with impregnation or a man lying with a man. All right. So when Adam knew his wife, when Usef knew his wife, when Jacob knew his wife, that's the one phrase, to lie by a man. Now, the rest of these, if you go back into the word yada, it indicates and gives major references to oftentimes you had a relationship with someone, you were advised by someone, you were advising someone, you've worked with someone, you have good knowledge of someone, you've seen someone, you've worked with someone. Moderators, check our screen, please. And so I want you to understand that that is a significant thing. Remember, the word new is not just about man lying with a female. All right. Only one phrase references that. And it happens to be used probably quite a bit. 50% of the time you see the word new, it means that. But in this instance, there was a new king in Egypt, i.e. a new Pharaoh, that did not get counsel from Jacob, knew not Usef, right? Usef dies, is gone on. He is not the vizier. He is not the counsel to that Pharaoh, not being kept abreast of the history of how the Israelis came into Egypt and profited Egypt, having now himself the new king, probably born, though he should know the history, but he's not being advised by Zaphanath Paneah, who is Usef, who is Jacob's son, right? He was the one that the brothers sold into slavery. He went into Egypt, went into Potiphar's house, became a counselor and overseer there, lied on, went to jail, went to prison, became the warden's counselor, profited the actual prison. It was probably the most effective it's been. And then, of course, elevated to the right hand of the Pharaoh over all the land of Egypt. And again, having become, as we would say, vizier or a consulary or an advisor, main advisor, to the point where Zaphanath Paneah, Usef, was in fact the counselor to pharaohs. But here, when you read verses 1, and I'll put it on screen for you, when you read verses 1 through 7, it indicates that all these guys of Jacob came out. Usef was still alive, right? Usef was already in Egypt, verse 5. Usef, verse 6, died. Now, we don't know how long it was Usef died. We could find out. I don't have right offhand how long it was, how many years, how many decades it was that Usef's influence over the pharaohs of Egypt waned. And this new pharaoh rose and did not, verse 8, this new pharaoh arose and knew not Usef, his influence, or any of the things that came along with him. All right. So we don't know. I can find out. We don't have time today to do it, but we could come back with it if you really, really, really wanted to know how long it was between this new pharaoh arising and Usef dying, which would explain. And here's the conversations you have to have, which is why we love Bible Book Club, because you have to actually delve into the storyline and content to make it make sense. So yes, Usef died. It's not like the next pharaoh rose up and just disregarded any counsel that Usef had, Zaphanath Paneah, had influenced the other pharaohs with. So how long before that influence waned or wore off? We would have to dig up and find out. And it would be, I dare say, but must say in all fairness, it would be subjective. But there is enough history recorded about his death, as well as the pharaohs that preceded, or I should say succeeded, the pharaohs he influenced. All right. So we now know, by making it make sense, that there was a pharaoh who did not have Usef, Zaphanath Paneah, in his ear. And therefore, him looking over Goshen, wondering why these people are so mighty and so many, causing him to have a panic attack as to whether or not, their borders were safe with this people who are not Egyptians, but yet a mixed multitude and primarily Israelis. Him saying, well, if something should happen and we go to war, those people we can't really say are with us. Now, if Zaphanath Paneah was alive, he would of course be able to speak on behalf of the people living in Goshen and tell that new king, the new pharaoh that rose up, that, hey, listen, these are the people that Pharaoh X and so brought in. They're my family. We are here for Egypt. We are here to prosper and make sure that the livestock of Egypt, which you've been enjoying in your steaks and your goat and your lamb meals, those livestock are growing. We're also doing a great deal of your horticulture and your agricultural needs at the marketplace. The quality of your foods there are a part of what we do in Goshen. And so that Pharaoh may have said, okay, cool, we're good. I trust that they're with us, right? But the Pharaoh doesn't, this new Pharaoh who rose up doesn't have that vizier, does not have that consigliere, that's an Italian word, we shouldn't use it, doesn't have that advisor in his ear with that type of power that Zaphanath Panea had to say, hey, look, I'm the one that Yahweh used to save Egypt in the years of famine. And then these are my family. They came later, and we were given that land. The pharaohs prior to you trusted us in that land. You should not fear that we would ever turn our back or give access to your enemies to come in through us and conquer you. You know, we're here, we're with you. Who you with? We with you, right? So I hope that made a little bit of sense for some of you guys, because we don't oftentimes, while reading the Torah and the historicity of Israel and the Bible records, we don't oftentimes delve into the parts that make the storyline make sense. So verse 8, you might say it's too much. We're going to do it again. Verse 8. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, and he knew not Usef. He did not have the counsel of Usef. All right. Now I need y'all to chat me up in these chats. Okay. Come on, chats. Y'all talk to me, whether it's on Clubhouse, Facebook, wherever it is. Chat me up. Make sure everybody has a microphone in Clubhouse so they can speak if they need to speak. And if you got a question in Clubhouse, say your name out loud. Come off microphone, say your name out loud. Come off mic, take a half a second, wait till you're clear, then say your name out loud, say it strong. Our moderators will catch you, put you in queue, and you can ask your questions. Now, you can do that at any point we're teaching. Those of you on YouTube, please type your questions into the text. Our moderators who are watching your text will, in fact, get your question to me live time. And if we can answer it today, we will. If not, we will schedule it, slate it, table it for another day. But we will answer your question as you have it when it comes. Verse 8, Shemot, chapter 1, verse 8. Exodus, chapter 1, verse 8. Now, there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Usef. Verse 9, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel, they are more and mightier than we are. Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out a war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. So somebody talk to me and let me know if this makes sense to you about what you're reading and hearing here, that this Pharaoh did not have the counsel of Zaphanath-Paneah, who is in fact AKA Usef, who was Jacob's son, right? So you now know why he says, hey, what's going on our border? Let's deal wisely with this matter. We have to think military. We have to think, national security here. And he doesn't have his number one general in his ear saying, no, those people they're not your problem. They're actually going to benefit you. So he goes on and says to the council he does have that, hey, we need to deal with them wisely. We need to secure our borders. I don't care who they are, how long they've been here. I don't trust them. Right. So he doesn't have them. Does anybody get that? I hear you, Carol Bailey. Carol Bailey said, okay, that makes sense. Anybody else with a thought on that?
Yes, that makes sense. Also.
Who is that?
This is Carmen.
Carmen, thank you. Remember, say your name so I can hear you and we can talk to you directly. All right, everybody getting that?
Yes, sir, Santana.
All right, thank you, Santana. So we now know that, okay, he doesn't have the good counsel of the people who actually established what's going on in Goshen presently and how it developed, and that they have nothing to fear. So he does what he has to do as a king and a pharaoh, and he sets it that he protects his border. Verse 10, come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when a war falls out, they join our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out the land. Verse 11, therefore they did set over the Israelis in Goshen. They set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. So I want to make sure y'all catch that. The taskmasters came up with burdens. As you now know, the tasks became for many pharaohs in that day to build their treasure cities. So the burden of building those treasure cities was transferred to who? Anybody know? The burden and task of that, the burden of that task to build those treasure cities and other things facsimile fell on who based on verse 11? Go, Carmen.
On the Israelites.
It fell on the Israelites residing in Goshen, and we do not want to disregard there was also a mixed multitude there as well in Goshen, so they too could have been recipients of those said burdens and tasks. So verse 11 again, now understood. I'll reread it for the sake of clarity. Therefore did the Egyptians, having a council with the Pharaoh, set over the Israelis taskmasters from Egypt, in order to afflict them with the Egyptian burdens, i.e., I'm going to get to that, forget i.e., and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities. That's the burden. The burden was they were building treasure cities for Pharaoh, Pythians, and for Pharaoh's Pythian and Ramses, right? But the more the Egyptians, verse 12, the more the Egyptians afflicted the Israelis, them, the more the Israelis multiplied and grew. And the Israelis were grieved, the Egyptians were grieved because of the children of Israel. And it would be safe to say, based on the amount of them, the cunning of them, the artwork of them, they grieved the Egyptians because the Israelis had a lot of prominence. Verse 13, the Egyptians then began to make the children of Israel serve with rigor. Now, we can automatically assume from the English vernacular what we say rigor means, but why don't we take it from the Hebrew word for rigor here, which was the Hebrew word, look to the right of your screen, the Hebrew word 6531. It is the word perek, all right? And the word perek from an unused root, meaning to break apart, to fracture, i.e. severity, cruelty, and rigor. So we could say from the unused root that they were Egyptians breaking up and breaking apart and making it their business to fracture in severity with cruelty and rigor the children of Israel. All right, goes in alignment with the concept of indentured servitude. Some of you may generalize it and call it slavery. All right, now let's continue to move forward. Verse number 14, and they made their lives, the Egyptians, verse 14, the Egyptians made their lives bitter, made the Israelis' lives bitter. Goes along with rigor, right? They made their lives bitter with hard bondage. That goes along with rigor, breaking up, fracturing, cruelty, severity, right? They made their lives bitter with hard bondage. They did that in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with vigor, with rigor. Now, they were already serving Egypt because they were over the agricultural and horticulture that came out of Goshen. They were doing the cattle, the livestock, but they made them do it with rigor. They did it to the point that it fractured their will to do it. They forced them to do it. They were cruel about it. They gave unrealistic demands to make their lives just simply miserable in that land. So verse 15 goes on to say, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, still trying to bring control over the people. The verse 15, the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Sephara, okay, and the name of the other was Puah. Verse 16, he said to them, when you do the office of midwifing. Now, what is the office of midwife? What is midwife? Well, the midwife, if you look at the right part of your screen, is the Hebrew word H3205. It is the word yalad. All right. So in yalad, it means from the primitive root to bear young, causatively, to begat, medically, to act as midwife, specifically to show lineage, bear, begat, birth, make born, make to bring forth children, young children particularly, bring up calves, children, to come to be delivered of a child, time of delivery, gender, hatch, labor, do the office of a midwife, declare pedigrees, be the son of, woman in, woman that travaileth, all right, travailing woman, right? So whenever you labor over bringing into this world the children of the Hebrews, verse 16, and when you do the office of the midwife toward the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools. Now, what is a stool? Many of you might want to know. So stools are the Hebrew word H70. It is the word obin, all right? And the word obin, it comes from the word 68, which is in fact the word eben, which means from the root word of 1129, through the meaning of building a stone plus carbuncle plus mason plus plummet, chalk, hail, head sling, stony, divers, weight. All right. So we're talking again about the word here that is in fact stool. All right. We know that it's strong, it's heady, it's a thing, but it's obane, and it is the a pair of stones. Only dual, a potter's wheel, or a midwife's stool, consisting alike of two horizontal discs with the support between, which is a wheel or a stool. So basically, you and I would know that today in the world of pediatrics and baby delivery. I'm sure Unstoppable would know more about this as she's in that genre, she's in that field. It's the things you call stirrups today. Okay, though they were not laid on their backs per se, but they were literally not kneeling down, but stooping down, and they would rest on a stool that had support over their glutes and hamstrings, leaving the passage for the birth canal that the baby might come forth. And that's how they did most of their delivery back there. So the stool, though it could be a potter's wheel, in this instance, properly applied, the stool is what the midwives used to bring forth the children. Now you would say, well, Apostle, we know that. It's just assumed, it's given. You'll be surprised how many people need to know that in order to follow the story correctly. All right. So that's what the stool represents. And that's what the stool here is, the word obeying. Verse number 16. I'll repeat it for the sake of making sure we're clear. Let's go to 15, just to repeat it for the sake of clarity and following back where we started. The king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives. One's name was Sapphira, the other's name was Puah. They apparently were the overseers of midwifing. Verse 16, and he said, when you guys do the office of midwife to your Hebrew women and you see them upon the stools, listen, if it be a son, I need you to kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but they saved the men children alive. So this begins to set the narrative and the modum of operative regarding how the midwives would protect the male children born even under an edict to see them dead. So Pharaoh gave Sephora and Puah this instruction, left them over it, and I guess came back sometime later to check on it or what have you. But Puah and Sephora, they kept the babies, male babies, alive. They disobeyed the king because, you know, Yahweh didn't say for that to be done, and they needed their men to pass seed so that they, as a people, would continue to grow so they could occupy the promised land, which Goshen was not. Anybody got a thought or a question about this? Okay, y'all know we in Bible Book Club. Y'all not going to ask questions. It's going to be real quick and we're going to be done. All right.
Carmen.
Go ahead, Carmen. What you got?
I was wondering, was the two midwives, were they also Hebrew?
Of course they were, yes.
Oh, okay. Because it wasn't clear to me when I was reading it. that they were also Hebrews.
Yeah. So they are generally believed to be Hebrew. Yes, the words and the names are of Hebrew descent. So if you want me to, I'll pull it up right now. Let's look up Sephar and see what that means, and we'll look up Pua and see what that means as well. And this is a great question because this is something that's being done medically in the nation. He does make a delineation and says when you do the midwifing for the Hebrew women, so that means that they're doing midwifing for other women as well. So these must be the overseers of that medical genre in the land. But I do believe, and generally we all believe, that they are a Hebrew that are doing this. Yep. So if you look at this to the right of your screen, the Hebrew word for Sephra is in fact Hebrew word H8236, and it is the word pronounced Shifra. It is the same as 8235, which is Sephra, the Israelites. All right. So, of course, that means that she's an Israeli. Now, Pua, looking her up, she is H6326. She is Pua. She is from that word is from the unused root word, meaning to glitter, meaning brilliancy. Pua, who is, as we see here, an Israelitess. All right. So that answers your question with clarity and no ambiguity. Okay, great question, Carmen. Moving on, verse 16. And she said, when you do the office of the midwife, that's 16. Verse 17, but the midwives feared Elohim and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but in fact saved the men children alive. Verse 18, and the king of Egypt called for the midwives and says, why have y'all done this thing? And why have you saved the men children alive? I know I told y'all to kill them. Verse 19, the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women. They are lively, and they are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. Meaning, does anybody want to know what that means? Or does anybody want to take a gander at what verse 19 states? Pharaoh said to them, why did y'all not kill him? The midwives' response to Pharaoh was, the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and they are delivered ere the midwives coming in unto them. Anybody know what that means or take a gander at it? Okay, so Santana, go.
For one, I'm gonna be
okay.
funny, but to me, one of the things is they're not like the Egyptian women. Like they already are. I don't want to use the word jealous, but they are pretty much. What was the word used up before? With they were
lively.
Yeah, but I mean, when it's saying lively, it kind of makes me kind of think back towards how they was already not liking the Hebrew people. But technically, what it's saying is by the time we get to them, they vigorous. They already done pushed it out.
Right. That's really what it is. The animosity piece, I can't let that be. But just to go back to it, since you raised it, we want to make sure everybody's clear on it. Verse 19, the midwife said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, doesn't necessarily mean that there is any kind of, hatred or jealousy or anything like that. They just go on to identify with the adjective that these people are lively. What's the word lively mean here in the Hebrew? The word that was used is the Hebrew word H2422. It is the word chayeh, which means they are vigorous, meaning they are lively. It comes from the Hebrew word 2421, which in fact is the word chaya. All right, and it means from its primitive root. If you compare it to 2331 and compare it to 2421, it means that they are to live, whether literally or figuratively, causatively, to revive, to keep, to leave, make alive, certainly give, promise life, let suffer to, live, nourish up, preserve alive, quicken, recover, repair, restore to life, revive, save alive, life lives, surely be whole. So though we have all those narratives or all those adjectives for the word kaya, it indicates by context that the Egyptian women, verse 19, are not like the Hebrews. The Hebrews are like the Egyptians. They are lively. And by the time we get into the room, they have already delivered the children, and the families have taken the child and gone on their way. So there's no way we could poison a child, strangle it out, or whatever. By the time we get there and we're called in, because they're so lively, they've already delivered the child by the time we got there. Okay, good.
Santana.
Okay, go ahead, Santana.
Again, I found it where I was getting it, and I appreciate how you pushed me back on making sure to see it clear. But I got to go to it again just to make sure if I'm wrong. So that part where I was going to was where it said they're mightier. So that's what my thought was when I'm saying it. I'm still in the wrong when I'm thinking there.
Well, it's not that. You got to remember, when you're reading the Bible, you're talking from a narrator. You're talking from someone who's telling the story in parts. So yes, okay, that was a general consensus from the throne of Egypt that the Israelis were mightier than them, and the Egyptians were in fact complexed or perplexed by the Israelis, and they, as it was stated earlier in the passage, they looked at the Israelis with a little bit of contempt. But this conversation doesn't mean that they were demonstrating that contempt. They were simply saying, well, Pharaoh, our people are not like the Egyptians. They get on the stool and they get off the stool. The Egyptians go through the labor. They take forever. By the time we get there, we have the ability to help with the delivery. But by the time we get there for the Hebrews, well, they've already given the child up, and umbilical cord has been cut, and they've gone on their business. So killing the child then is murder. Great question. Many more people had that question than you would imagine. All right. So verse number 20. Yolanda, go ahead.
Shalom, Apostle. So in verse 18, it refers to the king of Egypt. Well, it says the king of Egypt called for the midwives. But then in verse 19, it says that the midwives said unto Pharaoh. So
yeah, same thing. Yeah, there's the same thing. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, good question. Good identifier. All right. So verse 20 says, therefore Elohim dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied, and the people waxed very great. Verse 21, and it came to pass, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he made them houses. Pharaoh then charged all of his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. So he went from being sneaky and telling the midwives, who are a part of the delivery process. He went from telling them, all right, y'all, listen, just when you see a child born from the Hebrews, y'all kill it. Y'all, a male child, go ahead and kill it. But then, because Yahweh dealt so well with the midwives, because the midwives disobeyed that order from Pharaoh, which was ungodly. Verse 20, therefore Elohim, verse 20, Elohim dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied, and they waxed very mighty. All right. Verse 21, it came to pass, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he made them houses. Verse 22, and Pharaoh then charged all of his people. So in the event that an Egyptian was doing the midwifing of a male child, and so since he told all of his people, all the Egyptians, every son that is born, and he's speaking specifically of the Israelis, that is of a male seed, I want you to cast it into the river, and every daughter, you'll keep them alive, because they're growing too big, and the seed givers are coming constantly. All right. Santana, go ahead.
He literally mean he made them houses, right?
Yahweh did, right. He made them a house, but meaning he made them houses. Well, I can give you the answer, but let's see what the actual definition in verse number 19 means. 21 means. So verse 21 says, and it came to pass because the midwives feared Elohim that he made them houses. So what does the word here houses mean? Now it could mean what you know, your typical brick and mortar, right? But H1004 is the word beith, right? It is probably from the word 1129. Now let's go to 1129. 1129 is the word banal. Now, from banal, it means to build, literally and figuratively, begin to build, be a builder, obtain children, make, repair, set up, surely. So do y'all see how it's important to know the definitions? Because we would automatically think the generalization of the word here would mean to build a house. Now, he does say in the word banal, which is a derivative of the word houses, being the word, in fact, bayith rather. But it says it's probably from, because bayith means, look at the screen, abbreviated for a house. In the greatest variation of application, especially family, etc., court, daughter, door, dungeon, family, fourth, great as would contain hangings, home, born, winter house, hold, inside, inward, palace, place, prison, steward, tablet, temple, web, or within and without. So steward would probably be the best way of putting it. Yahweh made them stewards over the people. And then when you put it in the context of a word that is a derivative of it, the word 1129 in the Hebrew, which is the word banal, it would mean to build both literally and figuratively. Begin to build, be a builder, watch this, obtain children, make, repair, set up, surely. So these were people who took care of children. So Yahweh made them stewards over children because they were pleasing to Yahweh. That verse 20, Elohim dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied, they waxed very great. It came to pass when the midwives feared Elohim that he made them stewards over the children.
Yeah, I missed that. Thank you.
Okay, this is why it's very imperative that you read the definitions for words. Don't just assume your English vernacular is the word implied, though it's translated to English, though you can connect it to a definition that might be able to fit, I would say subjectively or forcefully. Make sure you have more of the definition so you know which application is actually afoot. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for asking your question. All right. So that having been said, and as it were understood, that's the end of chapter 1. Now I'm going to start chapter 2, but there's so much in chapter 2, the first parts, that we're going to have to come back to it. So there went a man, verse 1, chapter 2, Shemot 2. There went a man of the house of Levi. He took a wife, a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived. She bare a son. And when she saw him, he was a goodly child. She hid him 3 months. Now you know why she hid him 3 months, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when she could not hide him any longer, she took for him and made an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags of the river's brink. Now, what are flags? Flags are, in fact, the Hebrew word H5488. It's suf, right? Suf. Probably to the Egyptian origin, a reed, especially the papyrus, the flag, which you would see in the Red Sea. It was a weed. So you could compare it to 5489, which would be the word, in fact, suf, all right, which is by ellipsis, a reed, again, associated with the Red Sea, okay? And it would be ellipsis of 3220, which the word 3220 in Hebrew is, in fact, the word yom. It is also, watch this, from an unused root, meaning to roar, a sea, as breaking in surf or large body of water, specifically with the article the Mediterranean Sea, sometimes a large river or an artificial basin, locally the West or rarely the South Sea, faring man, shore, southwest side, southwestern, southwest ward. All right. And so we now know that this could have been an artificial carving on the Nile or the Red Sea. And she put the child in that because the current, the wave breaks there because of the reeds. So it wouldn't be shifted. It wouldn't be shifted and swiftly taken out to sea because the river actually goes into a larger body of water. All right, moderators, we're gonna probably end here just to give you an understanding that when everybody thinks that when Moshe was born, what took place was the day he was born, they just went ahead and built a ark and put him on the water, right? Clearly, they didn't put him just on the water. They put him where the water wouldn't get current. Somebody say that hit different when you understand it.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Okay. And she had the child for 3 months. She was trying to hide it. And when she realized she couldn't hide the male child any longer, she built an ark. So we don't know how long it took her to build the ark. You just ain't build that overnight. Now, I'm sure back then she was focused, so she was definitely locked in. But however long that took, I'm sure it was maybe about, I would think, another month, because you got to put it with pitch and then make it seaworthy. And if you don't know anything about being seaworthy, then you'll have to have me come back and explain that to you later. We used to make rafts at a place called where we lived at in Jersey, South Jersey, and we had a lot of ravines and a lot of rivers that would run through and irrigate some of the farmland and run through some of the back of some of the projects we all had. So project children, we would cut the fence because you weren't supposed to go behind there. And then we'd go back down there and they would artificially put concrete in to keep the water running consistently and not flooding up in the project area. And back in that area where there would be the marsh, they would fill it with, fill dirt, and then put concrete to prevent the water from coming in and washing away the fill dirt. It would give a sense of grass. It have some stability to walk on, run on. And little children like us, we're running. We don't know the technology involved, but there would be concrete, as it were, pathways. We called those raceways, right? But they would be concrete plates lined up against the dirt, and the dirt would be pressed up against the concrete slabs, maybe 6 feet by 8-10 feet, going in the direction they wanted the water to be guided. And so we would get in those places, and the water could get pretty high there, like about 4 feet. And so we would go in there and we would make rafts. And when we made our rafts, we would take some of the, tree branches, get some of the vines or rope, and then we tie the logs together to make a raft. And then we would submerge those boards or tree limbs we tied together really, really, really tight. We would, then once we got them secured and glued them together with whatever kind of, natural putty that sort of kind of resisted water, we would put them together, tie the ropes really tight, tie it off, and then we would submerge that raft in the water for, I think it was like, we would do it for like maybe a week. So we put bricks on top of it so it wouldn't go drifting. And we would make sure it stayed stable against the concrete, but under the water, so that the limbs and the trees and the boards, 2x4s, 4x4s, we picked up from construction sites, or we pick up from being trashed in that area and floating down the river. And we'd make sure that they were filled with water, i.e. waterlogged. And once they're waterlogged, they are now seaworthy. So they'll float when we release the weight of the bricks on them, and then we could put our body weight on them and we could drift down to wherever we could drift to. So making that stuff seaworthy takes time. It ain't something that's just done in the day. So does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah, that was a good ad, Apostle.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna leave it here because I want to get going. I've got a lot of traveling to do this weekend, and I need to get prepared for a flight out in the morning, early morning, and I need to get rest. So, is there a question? I think I had 2 people in queue, and we're gonna cut it with them. Moderators, who do we hear?
Santana and Montgomery.
Great. All right. So Santana, go ahead.
I can wait.
No, please go.
Well, it was 2 things, Sam. One was they never mentioned, it just said there was a man and he took a wife. Mm-hmm. And I think later on in other chapters, if I'm understanding correctly, they named who these 2 people were.
Correct.
Am I wrong?
That's correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The second thing is the godly child. A lot of people to me interpret that as handsome or good looking.
He was a goodly child. It was an appropriate and a good child, firstborn. He was according to what we know now to be the commandments. First to crack the matrix, seed giver, name to carry on the name of the family. So yes, you're on the right path, and we will get to that in the chapters to come. Thank you, Santana, for asking. All right, Montgomery, what you got?
Shalom. Sister Beverly has a question.
All right, what is it?
I just put it up for you.
All right. Verse number 22b, regarded a decree as Herod did in the birth of Yeshua. No, we're not there yet. That's not the decree. Verse 22. Are you talking about chapter 1, right? So no. Would verse 22 be regarded a decree? It is a decree. He did tell all the people that's a decree. If the king speaks, it's a decree. To kill the firstborn. Now, the decree that Herod did in Yeshua's day, that decree from Pharaoh is yet to come. So we'll see that as it goes along. History gives a report of what they believe was done. Every child under 2, he wanted dead, every male child. And yes, this does float along with that, but I really would like to see you guys see the story unfold so that you're able to not just have me say, yes, you can actually see the why to the answer. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you guys go. We've been an hour. There you go. Okay, good. So I hope that works for you guys. I hope that the unpacking makes the story start to make a indelible mark in your lives, and you can start seeing what Yahweh wants even greater while you're reading the text. So I'm going to ask everybody to go and read chapter 2 when I come back next week to discuss it, and we're going to read it ourselves. You should have questions or some reveal that happened to you in the interim of our next meeting. Well, my name is Apostle V.W. Jones. Here you have it. We're talking about Shemot, and we'll be in chapters 2 going into 3 for next Thursday. I hope you'll tune back in. There is a lot in here. It's going to be fun to learn about how and who Moshe is and why his existence matches the lines of Yeshua's. Minister Phillips tried to bring us into it sooner than I want to, but we'll get to it nonetheless. Listen, we're going to let you guys go. Hope to see you back here again next Thursday. Remember again, for those of you tuning in late, that we do have a request from many of you, backed by popular demand, but more importantly, by the necessity of the kingdom. We will be bringing forth, for those of you who've never known what KYC is, the knowing of your calling, okay? When you know your calling, you know how to serve the kingdom and Elohim better, as well as your community, all right? So those of you who've never known about KYC, or you've been hearing about KYC and how we read and study and how it helps you understand your Bible better, you want to be able to get registered for this coursing. If you will contact us by email at staff.kyc@gmail.com, our administrator there and resident educator, professor there, will be able to help you with the information on how to get registered for the 17th of June, which is when that first course will begin. It will run for 8 weeks, which will probably take us into the middle of August, and we'll be able to go from there. Okay. All right. And those of you who are part of the alumni, well, if you want to get back into it, there's a deep discount for you coming back in because you're already part of it. But many of you do need to go back through it because I'm listening to some of the stuff we're saying and we're not applying what you learned in the course. So we want to make sure we get a redundancy on it. You can never go wrong with it. I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you. And yes, there are very limited scholarships available for the students who look to be a part of that teaching of the Know Your Calling course and class. My name is Apostle V.W. Jones. It is absolutely 100% a joy to share with you and read with you and study with you the word, unpacking, breaking down things we did not consider. So until we get a chance to meet again, let's come back with prayer right now. I'm going to give you the benediction. There'll be an announcement after that, and we go from there. Father, we thank you for your word, will, and purpose. Now may Yahweh bless you and keep you all. May Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift his countenance upon you and grant you all 13 attributes of his shalom.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this message has been a blessing to your very life and your soul, and more importantly, your walk with the King. Well, we have come to the end. I hope that you would consider becoming either a partner with us in ministry, or if you're not already a kingdom citizen, consider becoming one. By doing that, you can sow into this ministry so that we are able to continue to teach this type of ministry at a grand scale. Join us on all of our social media platforms and visit our webpage to make your contributions sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Shalom Aleichem.
If you need truth, this is the place for you. No need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.